everyone, so today I am doing the K-pop album tag for 2018. And this tag was started by Randomly 2011, years ago. And this tag is a nice way to do an end of the year kind of highlights or overview of all the new releases that came out. And I decided to change things a bit from what I did last year because I think this year I didn't really focus so much on buying new releases. And so I thought with this year's tag, I was going to incorporate more of an overview of all of the new releases I purchased this year and then highlight some of my favorite things. So I'm going to group all the things that I bought that were released in 2018 into different categories. So that way you could see the pool of things that I was selecting from when choosing my favorites. And first I'm going to start with girl group mini albums. So what you see here are all of the girl group mini albums that came out in 2018 that I purchased within this past year. And so there are quite a few releases that I haven't had the chance to buy yet. So I plan to catch up on those probably sometime next year. And those include A-Pink's 1 and 6, Red Velvet's RBB, Twice's Yes or Yes, probably the repackaged one, and Lovely's Sanctuary mini album. But these are the ones I have been able to get a hold of this year. And so my favorite rookie girl group from this year is probably obvious from what you see here, and that is Luna. And I do have their Plus Plus debut album, and it's really remarkable how Luna went about their pre-debut projects that led up to this album, and I thought this was a really strong debut. I think I was a little thrown off initially when they released Favorite followed by Hi Hi, since those were really dramatically different concepts. But listening to this mini album as a whole, especially with all the B-sides, I thought this was a very strong debut. And clearly my favorite from this year, even though there were quite a few very strong girl groups that did come out this year. I'm gonna wait to see how their releases go in the future before deciding whether I want to physically collect their things or not. But yes, Luna are my favorite girl group rookies. And I'm going to leap into my favorite girl group Photobook that came out this year. And that is CLC's Black Dress. So I really loved the title track Black Dress. I don't think this is their strongest mini album as far as their B-sides go, but their photo book in here is just stunning, and I love all the different page textures, and it just looks like a magazine photo shoot with the black and white and color photos all together. And the last thing we're going to touch on in this section is my favorite girl group mini album. I'm going to first talk about my runner-up, and that is AOA's Bingle Bangle. So, as a lot of you know, AOA is my favorite girl group, and I just loved this release. I thought it was the perfect release for the start of summer. I think the girls really showed how, even with the absence of their main vocalist Choa, they can produce consistently great music. And Bingle Bangle is a really fun single. It was very different from them, which I did appreciate, and I thought all the B-sides here were excellent. And this is definitely one of my favorite AOA releases that they've come out with. But I think my favorite mini album from girl groups that came out this year was Dreamcatcher's Alone in the City. So Dreamcatcher, it's been a group that I've been keeping my eye on since their debut, or their formation as Dreamcatcher. So there's not a ton of music on here, maybe compared to AOA's Bingle Bangle. There's technically only 4 tracks, and also an intro. But I think this is definitely their best release to date. And I just really love rock music, as many of you know. And I think Dreamcatcher has really found that sweet spot of incorporating pop music with that rock and roll sound in a creative way. And the B-sides, like Trap and July 7th, I think show a different side to them too than just sort of that J-pop kind of rock pop sound that they were releasing prior to this. And I'm really excited to see how Dreamcatcher will continue to grow musically. And now on to the boy group mini albums. So for boy groups, I didn't buy a whole lot of variety, I guess, as the girl groups, and I think I have most of the mini albums that I plan on buying that came out last year. I think the only one I'm missing is Stray Kids' latest release, I Am You. And then another release that I actually purchased, I'm just waiting for it to arrive to me, is TVXQ's new mini album, the one that they released for their 15th anniversary. So that's going to be omitted from this. And I didn't mention this with the girl group mini albums, but I'm only showing one version per release, even though for a lot of these I did buy multiples. Like I bought both of Day 6's Run Bruh, Shoot Me. But start off with, I guess, for my favorite male rookie group, it's obviously Stray Kids, since it's the one I purchased. And their I Am Who is probably my favorite release of theirs so far. I thought their title track, Pace, was a lot of fun, and the B-sides here were really good. So honestly, Stray Kids have been really consistently good, and I think growing since they released Mixtape here. Their I Am You, which is the mini album I don't have currently, was sort of maybe a slight step back from I Am Who. It was just a very rushed mini album that came out not too long after I Am Who. There's still a lot of good tracks on there, which is why I plan on buying it, but definitely I Am Who was, I think, the highlight of all of their releases from this year. But I'm going to divide this into my favorite dance group mini albums and my favorite band group mini albums. Because if I'm being honest, the bands sort of dominated for me this year, but I still want to talk about some dance groups that I really enjoyed. So starting with dance groups, my favorite releases were from SF9. So their Mamma Mia and Sensuous album were, I think, the highlights for me this year. I think Sensuous sort of has a leg up over Mamma Mia. Mostly because the title track for this was amazing, and all the B-sides were very consistently good. Whereas I did really love the B-sides for Mamma Mia. I think this one just had a slight edge over the other one. And then for my favorite band release, my runner-up is going to be Day 6's Shoot Me. I think this is sort of the turning point of when I really started getting into Day 6. So I followed them since debut and enjoyed all their releases and enjoyed their every Day 6 monthly project releases too. But this is, I think, when they really showed that they do hard rock music very well. And I thought this mini album was amazing. And I really did love the Remember Us album too. And it was really hard for me to actually choose between these two, which one was my favorite, but I think Shoot Me won out in the end, even though I did really love the funky side with the 80s vibe of Remember Us. So that does leave us to FT Island's What If as my favorite band mini album. And this is also my favorite photobook for boy groups, I guess mini album releases, since this just had a beautiful concept for everyone. And it was done very well. But musically, I really loved this mini album. When it first was announced that they're coming out with a mini album, and the title track was a song that they didn't write or compose, I did have my reservations. I'm definitely in the camp where I love FT Island's new music that they write and compose themselves, especially their Japanese stuff. But I think this album was a very good addition to their Korean discography that sort of had some elements that were similar to their pop rock phase, like with their 5 Treasure Box album from years ago with their title track, but the B-sides I think really showed their growth as artists. The B-sides were all written and composed by them, so I guess it's no surprise that I really loved them. In particular, I really loved Nowhere and Who Am I, but really they're all great. And this may be FT Island's last release as a group before enlistments start, though I don't know when they're listing since they have a fan meeting in February. So hopefully they could squeeze in another maybe full group Korean release, or at least something in Japan, but whatever they do, I'm sure will be good. And just to be consistent so that I share everything that I bought in 2018, these are the Japanese singles that I purchased. And I'm now realizing that I'm missing Day 6's debut and Japanese single. But I think the real winners when it comes to singles, especially in terms of packaging, are TVXQ's singles. So they started doing these new limited edition photobook versions instead of the CD, DVD limited editions, and I really love these. I think for Photobook, my favorite one is their Road Photobook. So just to give you a taste, there's just some very nice photos of them with various concepts, and I'm really glad that their Japanese company decided to go with this over the CD DVD version, since I think all the content from DVDs are going to end up on their full-length albums from now on, which is fine. When it comes to my favorite single, that is definitely TVXQ's Jealous. I just adore this song. This is the weird, wacky, and sexy TVXQ that I know, and it's definitely been my favorite Japanese single they've released since post-enlistment. And I just really love the concept too of this photo book. And just the whole package is good. Next, I'm going to quickly go over the OST albums that I purchased in 2018. And so I only really buy OSTs if they feature a 2PM member, because I do collect actor PM things. So these are all part of my actor PM collection. And then this one I bought for a number of reasons. One, because there's a lot of good songs in here, including a track with two of the AOA members that I really adore. And also because Hongi's in this. And of course I love FT Island. They're my other old group. And this also came with photo cards of the people who actually sang the OSTs. So of course I was going to buy this. But I'm just going to mention two musically that I really enjoyed. The Korean Odyssey had a lot of great tracks, as I mentioned, by Yuna and Jimin from AOA. I really adore that track in particular. There's also New East W had a track on here, and so many other great artists had tracks on here. So this was a really good, just musical OST to buy. But hands down, my favorite OST from this year is, of course, this one, Just Between Lovers. Junho sang one of the OST songs on here called True Love, and this is definitely my favorite ballad that he's ever done. Just this whole drama was magical, which I'll definitely be talking about my favorite dramas of 2018 video whenever I decide to make that. And next I'm going to talk about official photo books that I purchased in 2018. So as you see here, there are quite a number of them that did come out last year that I ended up buying. Most from 2PM, most of the ones on the left side there are 2PM related. But I'm going to break this down to 3 different categories when choosing my favorites, because I think there are sort of 3 different subcategories for photo books you could put these in. So the first one I'm going to go over is just the straight up concept photo book. So this is just a photo shoot evolving around a certain concept. And if I was biased, I would choose either Nakun's or Junho's Traveling Alone photo books that were released from the Hottest Japan fan club. Because both of those are stunning and beautiful. But instead, I'm going to choose for my favorite concept photo book, My Name's Carpe Diem photo book. So they released this actually for their calendar that I think they released through their fan club. And this just has 4 members of My Name. So my bias Ensu is not here because he's doing his military duties. But this is definitely the best My Name photo book that they've come out with. I think they all look very natural, and I think one of the things when it comes to My Name photo books, they tend to look a little too posed, but I thought they all looked really good here and very relaxed and in a very nice setting. The next subcategory is going to be live concert photo books. So these are photo books that have pictures from actual concerts, and I only have one of these photo books here technically, and that is TVXQ's Begin Again, and this photo book is just stunning. I actually have another TVXQ photo book that came out this past year in one of my proxy packages, so I'm not going to be talking about that one, but this one I really love because TVXQ photo books, they always are huge, and all these pictures are just stunning. as you see here. And now the last subcategory are making photo books. So these are photo books from behind the scenes for like a music video or an album or something like that. And my favorite one to come out this year is definitely Junho's Flashlight Artist Making Photo Book. So this was a tour good that you could buy for his Flashlight finale concert, and has a lot of behind the scenes of his album making, as you see here, a music video and some other music video used in the concert. And this is just a lovely photo book that I adore, and I went to see this specific concert, not the finale, but the one before the finale. So this is very special to me. And I think this is 2PM's best making photo book that they've done so far, and just the page quality and the photos they selected were all very good. And next I have here are DVDs I purchased in 2018. So there are quite a number of DVDs that I spent probably way too much money on, but they are so worth it, because concert DVDs in particular are some of my favorite things when it comes to my K-pop collection. So there are a few DVDs that I didn't have the chance to buy this year, including quite a few FT Island ones, but these are the bulk of the DVDs that I meant to get this year. So I'm going to have some subcategories here to go over. First being my favorite non-concert DVD. So I only have one of these, and it is this one. So this is the Just Between Lovers box set. So this is the first drama DVD I've ever purchased, and definitely the most expensive thing I've ever purchased in terms of my K-pop collection. But this is so worth it. This is my favorite K-drama of all time. I'm currently rewatching it actually with my mom right now, and it's nice reliving all the feels for this melodrama. But this package is really nice. I wish there was English subtitles on here, but other than that, the photo book and everything else about this is really nice. And even though this is very expensive, I thought it was well worth it to add to my collection. The next category is favorite solo DVD. So there are 4 2PM solo DVDs that came out this year. And I kind of have 2 favorites from here. I guess the obvious one would be the Junho DVD, because as you guys know, I'm very Junho biased, and his solo music in particular is my favorite in terms of K-pop soloists and whatnot. And he's just a great performer, so it's a treat to watch him live. But the other solo DVD, or rather Blu-ray, I want to highlight is Wooyoung's Madabokua, and I just adored this concert tour. This had the best live band, I think, when it comes to any of 2PM's solo concerts, and I just really liked how Wooyoung interpreted a lot of his songs, and he's just a great performer. And it's so wonderful to have this and see him live, because I've yet to go to one of his solo concerts. So definitely Madabokua and Junho's 2017 SS were the highlights in terms of solo DVDs or Blu-rays. And next I'm going to talk about group concert DVDs. And so I only have these 2 from TVXQ, this 2PM 6 Nights and Day 6's The Best Moments concert DVD. In terms of photo book, definitely TVXQ's Begin Again special edition in Nissan Stadium is the clear winner, because it's, first of all, massive, and you get this huge photo book that's very similar to that live photo book I shared earlier from the first Begin Again tour leg. And you just have a lot of stunning pictures, and this concert is when they were performing in the rain, so the DVD is also wonderful to watch, and there's just a lot of great pictures here, and them soaked in the rain. It's a nice sight to see. For my favorite group DVD, I'm of course gonna have to go with 2PM 6 Nights. You really just can't beat OT6 2PM for me, and this was their last concert before they went on a group hiatus, and there was just a lot of emotions, and the set list is always great on 2PM concert DVDs, and the reinterpretation of a lot of their older songs. And it was kind of cool to see like the journey going back in time with their set list. And yeah, I've watched this multiple times, and it's definitely one of my favorite 2 PM DVDs and just DVDs to own in general. And so next up, I have Korean full-length albums. And as you see here, I didn't buy a whole lot of full-length Korean albums this past year. There's a few that I haven't had the chance to buy yet, like Red Velvet's repackage, The Perfect Red Velvet. I'll probably get that eventually. And I also really want to get SHINee's The Story of Light epilogue. And there's other full-length albums that were really good this year, but I probably won't be adding them to my collection at this point, because I've tried to restrict which groups I physically collect. Like, I really liked EXO's Don't Mess With My Tempo, and if I had to get a version, I might get the limited version that has Yixing in it, but I'm sort of on the fence on that because musically, I thought it was a step up from their prior releases, but EXO is a group I've sort of cut back on. Also iKON's The Return, that was a really good album as well, but I don't think I'll be physically collecting iKON at this moment. And also Infinite's Top Seed was released earlier this year. I was sort of hoping for a repackage, which is why I was a bit on the fence about buying it. I might try to pick it up with Sungwoo's things at some point, but it's not a top priority right now. But when it comes to these albums that I did decide to buy, there's a few flaws, I think, for a few of these, such as I love TVXQ's The Chance of Love. I thought this was a nice comeback, but I was really hoping there would be a repackage of this because I feel like there's a track list here. I think the track list felt a little incomplete for some reason, and not as strong as some of their other Korean full-length albums they've done in the past. But regardless, I really liked all these songs, and I think this is my favorite photo book of the bunch here because of the glossy pages, and just TVXQ makes really good photo books, always. And I also really enjoyed the English interviews that they included in here too. But in terms of the album that I listened to the most this year, other than TVXQ's The Chance of Love, it's probably GOT7's repackaged, actually. Surprisingly enough. I really just enjoyed this album a lot, especially Lullaby I thought was wonderful. Miracle was fine, but the thing that made this repackage really special was the bonus disc with all the special unit songs and just official audios of the songs that they performed at their concerts. And I did see GOT7 earlier this year when they had their world tour. So this was a nice album to listen to because not only was all the solo songs they included prior to this repackage excellent, as well as Lullaby, but the additional disc was also a treat to listen to. But I am going to nominate both of these probably for the worst packaging of this year. Like, packaging wasn't really too bad this year. Maybe I didn't mention this earlier, but Dreamcatcher's Alone in the City was a bit cumbersome to open, which was a tad annoying. But I don't really like albums. I think other people have mentioned this too, where you're supposed to rip these things if you want like the mini poster inside here. And I also don't like how companies are making multiple versions without really having different photo concepts. So I think I saw an unboxing on K-Town For You where they had all 3 versions of this repackage, Present, You and Me, and like every single page basically had the same photo, but it was a slightly different perspective. So like instead of having a close-up, you would have the far view of it, and it just seemed like a bit of a waste of why you would buy all 3 when they're basically the same album. So that was, I guess, the annoying bit from this year. And here I have all the Japanese full-length albums that I purchased this year. And I did stick this Day 6 The Best Day, which technically isn't their first full-length album. The first full-length album's unlocked, but I didn't know where else to stick this. in all the categories, so I stuck it here. But when it comes to my favorite Japanese full-length album, I do have one clear favorite, but the runner-ups are all kind of tied. So I guess I'll reveal my favorite first and then talk about the runner-ups. So my favorite by far is TVXQ's Tomorrow. So this is definitely one of my favorite albums that came out this year. I thought this was more true to what I think of TVXQ than their Chance of Love Korean full-length album. And honestly, everything about this is so good. The track list is great. I loved how they incorporated the singles that I thought were only okay, that they released prior to this, but how they incorporated into the track list I thought really made them stronger, if that makes any sense. And just all the songs on here are wonderful. And also the packaging is great because it comes with a very nice photo book. But that leaves these three albums here as the runner-ups, which I thought were all pretty equally great. You have My Name's Kiseki, which is wonderful, and again, we're missing Insu, so it's remarkable that they would put out such a great full-length album with Insu missing. FT Island's Planet Bonds was also very strong, though very different from them too, which was refreshing. It was really unlike United Shadows, which they released last year. That was a very hard rock and a bit more edgier than this, but this one was a very pleasant surprise from them. And also you have Day 6 Unlock, which I think just kind of showcased Day 6 strength with their Japanese releases, following the singles they released earlier this year. And I'm just really excited to see them grow in Japan especially. And if they could produce music like FT Island over there, that would be wonderful for me. And now I'm going to end this K-pop tag discussing my favorite solo releases from this year, because honestly, the solo releases were the highlight for me this year, and so many of my favorites released solo albums. Even though there's a ton of solo releases here, there's a lot of ones that I haven't had a chance to buy yet, including Jinyoung's Goodbye 20s, Key's Face, Yuri's The First Scene. I really enjoyed Boa's 2 albums that she released this year too. And I do have Hongyi's Do and Do album. I bought it through M-Wave, so I don't know when that will arrive to me, but these are the ones I currently have. And I'm also missing Junho's The Best album, which is just a best of album, but I would have liked to include it in this video. It's right now stuck in LA through customs, and I don't know when it'll come to me, along with Koon's fan club version for his Me album. So that's why you haven't seen an unboxing for that yet, and that's why we just see these here. Anyway, I'm going to start off with the album that surprised me the most this year. And I really have two for this question, because there's 2 albums that surprised me the most. The first one being Koon's album, Me. So when it comes to 2PM, you see here 5 of the 6 members clearly released solo albums in 2018. And the one missing, Taekyeon, he has been in the military all year. That's why we don't see any solo albums from him. But Koon's Me album really surprised me and how much I really enjoyed it. So when it comes to solo albums, especially 2PM solo albums, there's a very high bar that a release needs to reach for me to really like it, because 2PM, in my opinion, releases some of the best solo content out there amongst K-pop groups. But this album is 90% in English. There's a few Japanese phrases and words he's inserted to a few songs. And Koon, he has released solo songs before, but they've only been on group releases, and they're usually not my favorite, especially when you compare them to some of the other members of 2PM who have a lot more experience with songwriting and composition compared to him. But this was his first solo release, and I was very impressed. And all written by Koon, and he's helped with the composition on most of these tracks too. And it just really blew me away how good this was. And I will talk more about this when the fan club edition comes, and I will do an unboxing of it. But the other album that really surprised me this year was Chansung's Complex album. And this was such a good album. Like, I knew Chansung could write really good songs because some of my favorite 2PM songs are written by him, but I was just blown away by how much I love this. This is definitely one of my favorite solo releases to come out this year. It's that good. I have version B up here because it has the extended track list. This just had a variety of different styles that we haven't really seen from him before, and in the solo versions of group songs he's written, just how he interpreted those as a soloist was really surprising and just really well done. So I definitely urge you guys to check this out if you haven't already. I'm gonna start with my favorite female solo album, but this would probably be obvious, and I feel like a lot of people will have this as their favorite, but that is Sunmi's Warning. And this album was just so good. I just loved all the songs on here. I loved how it sort of gave you a feel like the Wonder Girls reboot album, and how she stuck her prior singles on here too. And this also has the best photo book, and I just love how artsy her photo books are. And this was just a flawless release that I'm really glad Sunmi's had a chance to do this since breaking away from JYP and becoming an established soloist. And now for my favorite male solo album of this year. It's probably gonna be very obvious, but it is a Junho solo album, and so he did release 2, plus the Best Of album that I mentioned earlier. But Winter's Sleep was very good, but I'm gonna have to give So the best award, I guess, because this was just one of the strongest releases in general to come out this past year. Over just Korean releases, Japanese releases, group releases, and solo releases. This was just outstanding. And I was very lucky to actually see him perform a lot of these songs at his solo concert in Japan. So I think that also makes this very special for me. I loved the music video that came out that he said was inspired by 50 Shades of Grey, which is ridiculous, but I just love that fanficky, very sensual music video. The last track, track 8, Beyond Time, is my favorite, but I really love Flashlight and Darling and What You Want, and just all the songs on here are 8+. And he's released consistently great albums over the years. I know a lot of people don't really check out his solo work, which I think is a shame, because he just has one of the best discographies, I think, from a Korean artist, even though most of it is in Japanese. I think he's been able to write songs that translate well both in Korean and Japanese. He's someone that is a little bit under the radar, but I'm really hoping that people will soon recognize his talents. And you can listen to this on Spotify, so I definitely encourage you to do so. And definitely watch his music video, because it's one of the best music videos to come out this year. So that was all the 2018 releases I bought this year and the end of this tag video. So I hope you guys enjoyed this and sort of tying in a collection overview while answering these tag questions. So let me know down below what some of your favorite things were to come out this year in terms of packaging, musically, or what your favorite photo book concepts were, and all that. It's really interesting watching all these end of the year tag videos, because everyone's answers are so different and how they set up these videos. So I hope you guys enjoyed this one, and until next time, bye guys.